do have some internet issues. Any way I can get priority? Okay, let's do this. Great. Hope Denver's been great for you folks. I certainly got a bug now, so going to take it back home to Texas. My name is Greg Osuri. I'm the founder, CEO for Overclock Labs, a core contributor to Akash Network. And today I'm going to talk about why crypto is saving AI and why AI needs crypto and not the other way around. There was a recent story in Semaphore, which is a very prominent publication, that talked about the chip shortage. So it turns out AI requires these accelerated computing chips called GPUs, and there are a lot of people that are needing these GPUs that created an artificial shortage. And this story is about a Columbia student that's trying to do machine learning and trying to get some chips to do machine learning, and he could go to Amazon and he couldn't get any chips. And he could go to Lambda Labs or any of the traditional places that you normally go to get chips, and he couldn't. And then, magically, he finds this decentralized, weird network and gets A100s for $1.10 an hour. So this is a story about how a traditional machine learning developer couldn't get chips in the traditional way, but could come to a Web3 network and actually get the chips to do machine learning training. Why? Because GPUs are very hard to get on demand. Why? Because big cloud providers control GPU leasing. So for example, on Amazon, the only way to get advanced GPUs is to know somebody that knows somebody and spend millions of dollars to even get access to the chips. So if you're an AI startup, there's no way in hell you'll be able to get started without having millions of dollars of funding or whatnot, right? Why? Because big tech companies are competing for these chips. As you know, Elon Musk is famously known for saying these words that GPUs are significantly harder to get than drugs, even though that is a low bar in San Francisco. But you saw Mark Zuckerberg purchase about 350,000 H100s. So these large companies that are doing AI are eating up chips left and right, and they are creating this massive shortage for anyone of normal folk to get access to the chips, right? And the options really are very limited to get the chips. If you go to NVIDIA directly, it takes about 2 years, I guess now it's 3 years, to get H100s directly from them. So your typical option is to go to a provider that can offer you these chips on lease. But guess what? In order to get chips from someone like a Lambda Labs or a Corby, which happen to be a tier 2 cloud providers, because tier 1s, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft do not have the chips, only tier 2s have. And if you go to tier 2s, you need to get into a minimum 3 to 6 month contract. I think now it's like a minimum 12-month contract, and you got to pay like 25% or 50% up front. In some cases, even 100% up front if you want to get in front of the line. Wait for 3 to 6 months and get the chips that you need, right? So that is extremely frustrating for someone that want to do an experiment or of a new model that just popped up, right? And what are the challenges? What are the implications of this way of getting chips? Well, number one, high costs. So it's impossible for a normal person to get the chips without having to spend millions of dollars up front, right? So basically, you're literally giving people money and waiting forever to get the chips. And that deters new folks from entering the space. And and most of the time when you order the chips, you're ordering something that, a requirement that lasted 6 months, right? So the rate at which the models are developing is so rapid that your requirements change, especially in a startup, because you're highly iterative. So what you get after 6 months may not be the exact chips that you want anymore, right? So you have this like massive underutilization of the wrong type of chips because AI has moved really fast. And on the other hand, if you look at it, there are free GPUs everywhere, right? What I mean by that is there are a lot of crypto miners that bought a ton of GPUs during the last cycle that are sitting idle. We saw Consensus here earlier. sitting on massive set of GPUs. Company called Foundry Digital, which is owned by DCG, is sitting on massive amounts of A100s and A6000s, right? So there's a lot of these companies that were previously mining, doing proof of work mining, and after Ethereum merge, are no longer having any use for these GPUs and are sitting idle in these data centers. And then you have companies that normally, with companies that are maybe 3 or 4 years older in machine learning, that's considered to be very old, having older fleet of chips. Say, for example, a company called Stability that bought A100s, 5,000 A100s about 4 years ago, now upgraded their fleet to something called H100s, which is the latest chip, have a fleet of A100s available that have no use, that they have that they don't have any use for. So there's enormous amounts of chips available, and also a lot of machine learning companies, when they do foundational model training, when they transition or when they upgrade their models, they have some downtime between training runs because the intensity that you require in terms of usability for the chips is significantly higher during training compared to inference, which is a way you serve the model. So there are a lot of underutilization scenarios where chips are owned by companies that those companies don't want to let them go, but still want to be able to get some sort of like liquidity on these supposedly owned assets, right? I mean, there are also companies that are raising money with GPUs as collateral. So GPUs are the new spice, right? And what is Akash is essentially a marketplace to trade GPU cycles. Akash is first and foremost a supercloud. A supercloud is a cloud that sits on top of private, public, hybrid, doesn't matter, any cloud-capable computer, and gives you a familiar user interface that is similar to a Docker Compose interface. It's easy to use and gives you the exceptional tools for orchestration and fault tolerance, whereas the compute comes from all over the place, using a marketplace mechanism where users can request compute, and if a provider can provide the compute, can bid on the order, and vice versa. The way it works is very simple. The user essentially creates something called an SDL file, places on the marketplace, and specifies how much they're willing to pay for the workload, and providers bid on that job, and the tenant eventually chooses the winning provider and then gets to use the computer, right? And this is real. This has been around for about 3 years, and the first and foremost is permissionless, so there's no permission required either from the user or the provider to provide supply. It makes it extremely incredible for composability, and it's peer-to-peer, right? So there's no middleman. What you get is what you see, and once the lease is established, the tenant and the provider gets into a peer-to-peer relation, and that makes it extremely reliable in terms of in terms of how when you don't have pessimistic way of acquiring resources, and it's open source. About 480 contributors contribute to this project. 20 people work full-time with Overclock Labs. About 90% of the community or contributors come from outside the community. They meet regularly in something called special interest groups. Anyone can make a proposal. There's an on-chain fund that funds the development of the chain and whatnot. And it's been growing. So daily active leases, a lease is an application, has quadrupled from last quarter. And that aligns very well with our GPU launch. And the lifetime GPU utilization, that means the amount of chips that are available to the amount of chips that are being used, lifetime utilization is about 41%, which we know it's extremely high, either for a centralized or a decentralized network. So, and I'm here to do a demo, because I love live demos, and hopefully the internet gods are going to be my friends today. So the way it really works, I mean, I go to Akash.network, and there is a link called Deploy Now, which takes you to this console. Console is a fully non-custodial UI interface. I have a wallet here called Kepler Wallet. I have some money in there. I click Deploy, and I upload an SDL file, like I mentioned earlier. I'm here deploying something called a Mixtral 7 billion parameter model. And I'm going to show how to do inference in real time on Akash. Here, the configuration essentially speaks about the container I'm going to use, the ports, how much I'm willing to pay, and the commands I need to run, right? And create deployment. This goes on chain. It's asking me to make some deposit and sign the transaction here, creating an order on chain. In about 6 seconds, you'll see this bits coming back for that will accept my workload. You can also see the transaction online while the bids are coming back. You can see what gets posted here. It's very anonymized information, nothing about your application, but just the resources you require. You see I got a bunch of bids. Remember the company I was talking about, Foundry Staking, which is a DCG company? They're competing to win my workload right here. I can choose Foundry because I know they're good. I can choose any of these clouds. I mean, different price points, different GPUs I get offered. NVIDIA V100 is fairly decent GPU. I confirm that I want that provider. Now a lease gets created on the blockchain. All this is verifiable. You can see underneath the in the transaction history. And in a second here, the provider should come online. Like I said, this is how a lease looks like on the chain. The owner is the wallet address, and the provider is the provider that bid on the workload. And I essentially say, I want to work with you. And here, if you can see this, it's really a bunch of events happening on the back end. It's pulling the container called Olama. And it's starting the container here, and I can see the logs to make sure that I am seeing some activity. Yes, it is pulling the checkpoint files. Checkpoint files are essentially the file that's going to serve the model. It says I'm 23% here. Hopefully, I have enough time left to finish this demo. If not, we can. I already have something running, but let's see. I really want to see a live demo because there's nothing better than live presentation. So. And while this is coming up, I can log into the shell. I can run your typical shell commands you would normally run. I will just show you NVIDIA SMI, which is a command to see what GPUs I have. You can see here I requested for a V100. I do have a Tesla V100 GPU that's attached to it. Let me check the logs here. We're almost there. It's almost there. So this is real. Got 1 minute and 50 seconds. While this is coming up, I'll show you another deployment I did. So I have another server I did earlier to. Okay, wait, hang. Real quick, I'm going to put this down. Just need to get this URL. So I just replaced the URL with the URL I just got from here, and I'm going to run this curl command. Curl is a way to invoke a web API. It's going to take a second here because it's warming up. OK, there you go. I asked Mistral, why is the sky blue? The color of the sky appears blue due to whatever. But you get the point. I was able to deploy an LLM from scratch in about 31 minutes, I guess. About 2 minutes, fully non-custodially, fully permissionlessly, fully with no signups, no credit cards, nothing, right in front of a live audience. All right, 30 more seconds, and I can take questions.
How did you make Kubernetes work with GPUs?
It was a very long process. Because GPUs are inherently anti-design pattern to Kubernetes because GPUs are very, very driver specific. There's a lot of technical lingo in there, but it took a long time.
How many GPUs are on Akash?
Right now, let's see, I don't know. Stats, about 150 GPUs, maybe? Yeah, 150 GPUs, but these are high-end GPUs, A100s, high-density GPUs. And we have about about 600 GPUs coming online every month, starting this month on. So keep an eye out. And most of them are H100s, A100s, and A6000s. And Akash will be the only place to get H100s for $2 an hour, which anyone that uses H100s know what that number means, and A100s for 79 cents an hour, starting H1, A1, more A100s end of the March, but H100s starting next week.
Is there any truth to the rumors that you're supported by Google?
No comment. All right, time's up. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ava, and I'll be with you.